Welcome to another exploration of the top creepy places in Connecticut. Connecticut is a state that wears its age quietly. Settled long before the American Revolution, its towns are lined with colonial stone walls, weathered cemeteries, and forests older than most of the country itself. On the surface, it's all quaint villages, covered bridges, and winding rivers. But spend enough time here and you'll notice something else. A sense of history that isn't always peaceful, and stories that seem to linger in the mist. This is a place shaped by centuries of conflict and change. From Puritan settlements and witch trials to secret societies, Connecticut's past is layered. Sometimes beautiful, sometimes brutal, and often just a little bit strange. Before we enter the realm of the unknown, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out as we uncover the mysteries of creepy places. Remember to like, share, and comment below with your own tales of the supernatural. Number 5. Old Newgate Prison, East Granby. Old Newgate Prison sits quietly in the hills of East Granby, Connecticut. Its crumbling stone walls and yawning mine shafts a stark reminder that beneath every peaceful landscape, there are places where history is anything but gentle. Long before it became infamous, this ground was riddled with tunnels, first carved in 1709 by men chasing the promise of copper. The mine was perilous from the start. Collapses were common, the air was thick and foul, and many who descended into the darkness returned with nothing but stories of close calls and strange echoes. The copper never brought the fortune its owners hoped for, but the tunnels proved useful in a far more sinister way. In 1773, the colony of Connecticut needed a prison, a place secure enough to hold the most dangerous criminals, and later, those loyal to the British Crown during the Revolution. The abandoned mine was chosen, its maze of stone corridors transformed into a subterranean fortress. Prisoners were herded down into the earth, shackled in darkness, and left to contemplate their fate in the cold, wet silence. Conditions were brutal. The cells were nothing more than rough alcoves chipped out of rock, each one barely large enough for a man to sit upright. In winter, the tunnels froze. In spring, they flooded. Rats and insects thrived in the damp, and disease spread unchecked. Guards rarely ventured far below, relying on the mine's natural isolation to keep order. It was said that once the heavy iron doors clanged shut, hope was the first thing to die. Escape was a constant obsession. Some prisoners dug with bare hands, desperate to find a way out. A few managed to slip into the labyrinth, only to vanish, swallowed by the mine's endless darkness. Their bodies never recovered. Others plotted more elaborate breakouts, bribing guards or setting fires, but most attempts ended in disaster. The punishment for failure was severe: tighter shackles, harsher beatings, and solitary confinement in the blackest corners of the mine. Even for those who survived, Old Newgate left its mark. Many prisoners emerged broken, blind from months without sunlight, crippled from chains that cut into flesh, or simply lost to madness. During the Revolutionary War, British loyalists were thrown in with murderers and thieves. Their accents and allegiances made them targets for abuse, and their cries echoed through the stone corridors, mingling with the moans of the dying. When the prison finally closed in 1827, the suffering didn't fade. The site was abandoned, but the stories persisted. Locals began to whisper about strange happenings, flickering lights deep in the tunnels, the sound of chains dragging across stone, and sudden icy drafts that seemed to come from nowhere. By the 1940s, tales of hauntings had become part of the prison's legend. Visitors reported seeing shadowy figures slipping between the pillars, always at the edge of sight. Some described hearing their names whispered from the darkness, or feeling a cold hand brush their shoulder when no one was near. There's the enduring tale of a ghostly guide, an apparition in colonial dress who appears to those who stray too far, offering silent warnings before fading into the gloom. Others have glimpsed the faces of former inmates, twisted in agony, replaying their last moments again and again. Modern investigators bring cameras and recorders, but technology often fails in the depths. Batteries drain without warning, and audio captures desperate cries or the clanking of unseen chains. Some who venture too far report a sudden overwhelming urge to flee, as if something unseen is urging them to leave. Today, Old Newgate Prison is a museum, open to those willing to walk the same paths as the desperate souls who came before. Guides recount tales of torture, escape, and the unexplained. Visitors are invited to descend into the tunnels, to feel the chill that lingers in the air, and to wonder if the restless spirits of Old Newgate are watching from the shadows. Standing at the threshold, you can't help but ask, are these just echoes of a brutal past, or does something truly linger in the darkness below Connecticut's quiet hills? Would you dare to find out? Number 4. Union Cemetery, Easton. Union Cemetery, a seemingly tranquil patch of earth in Easton that's earned the title, the most haunted cemetery in America. But what lies beneath the mossy stones and weathered oaks is anything but peaceful. Union Cemetery dates back to the 1700s, its grounds holding the remains of early settlers, Revolutionary War soldiers, and townsfolk whose stories have faded into legend. The cemetery is bordered by an ancient church and dense woods, an ideal setting for tales that blur the line between fact and folklore. The most famous spirit here is the White Lady, a ghostly figure shrouded in a flowing white dress. Witnesses describe her as pale, almost translucent, with dark hair and a mournful expression. She's been seen gliding among the gravestones, sometimes drifting onto nearby Route 59, causing drivers to swerve in terror. Her origins are debated. Some say she was a young woman who died tragically in the 1800s, possibly after losing a child or being abandoned by a lover. Others believe she's a remnant of a far older legend, forever searching for something she lost in life. Over decades, dozens of people, including police officers, have reported late-night encounters with the White Lady. One of the most chilling accounts comes from renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who spent countless nights at Union Cemetery. They claim to capture the White Lady on film and describe the cemetery as a psychic hotspot. Visitors report sudden cold spots, unexplained mists, and the feeling of being watched. Some describe hearing disembodied voices or footsteps crunching the gravel when no one else is near. Union Cemetery's haunted reputation doesn't end with the White Lady. Locals speak of shadowy figures darting between headstones, mysterious lights flickering at midnight, and even the restless spirit of a red-haired man known for appearing near the back fence. Standing among the ancient stones, it's easy to feel the weight of centuries pressing in. Is Union Cemetery truly haunted, or do the stories reflect our own fear of the unknown? Would you walk these grounds after midnight, knowing what countless others have claimed to see? Number 3. Curtis House Inn, Woodbury. Nestled on Main Street in Woodbury, Connecticut, the Curtis House Inn stands as a testament to endurance, a colonial relic, its timbers weathered by nearly 3 centuries of laughter, loss, and secrets. By daylight, it welcomes travelers with creaking floors and the warm glow of hearth fires. But as dusk settles and the world grows quiet, the inn's true nature emerges from the shadows. The Curtis House has been open since 1754, making it the oldest inn in Connecticut. Its walls have witnessed the comings and goings of revolutionaries, weary stagecoach passengers, and generations of townsfolk. Yet for all its hospitality, there's an undercurrent, a sense that not everyone who checked in ever truly left. Guests speak of an uncanny chill that lingers in the upstairs halls, a cold that sinks through skin and bone, no matter the season. Some say it's the presence of a colonial gentleman, forever pacing the corridors in search of something lost to time. His arrival is often heralded by the faint scent of pipe tobacco and the softest whisper of footsteps on ancient wood. Others have glimpsed a woman in white, her dress trailing like mist, her eyes full of sorrow. She appears and vanishes without warning, sometimes leaving behind only a sense of being watched. A gentle pressure, as if someone is standing just behind you, unseen but all too real. In certain rooms, guests have awakened to the sensation of a hand resting lightly on their shoulder, only to find themselves alone in the moonlight. Down in the liquor room, the air grows heavier. Staff and visitors alike have reported the fleeting shadow of a man believed to be a Confederate soldier, his story half remembered, his presence marked by the clink of bottles and a sudden, unexplainable draft. The inn's history is tangled with these spirits, some named, others lost to the centuries, but all seemingly bound to the place by unfinished business or unspoken grief. Even the objects in the inn seem to hold power. Years ago, a portrait of Anthony Stoddard, an ancestor tied to the building's origins, was hung on the wall. Almost immediately, reports of supernatural encounters surged. Lights flickered, doors opened and closed on their own, and voices echoed through empty rooms. Some believe the painting acts as a kind of beacon, a bridge between the living and those who refuse to let go. The staff have their own stories. One longtime employee recalls closing up late one night, the dining room empty except for the sound of her own footsteps. She glanced up to see a translucent figure gliding silently across the floor, vanishing into the wall as if slipping between worlds. Others have heard their names called from vacant rooms, or found objects moved from where they were left, as if the inn itself were rearranging its memories. For those who seek proof, the Curtis house offers plenty. Paranormal investigators have captured disembodied voices on tape, recorded orbs drifting through the darkness, and documented temperature drops so sudden and intense they leave goosebumps in their wake. Some guests have left in the middle of the night, unable to shake the feeling of being watched, or haunted by dreams that linger long after dawn. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Curtis House Inn is its silence. In the quiet moments, when the fire burns low and the world outside is still, the inn feels alive, listening, remembering, waiting. Are these echoes of history, or are the spirits reaching out longing for connection or release? Would you dare to spend a night here, knowing what so many have seen and felt? Or would you let the ghosts of Woodbury remain undisturbed, their stories locked behind centuries-old doors? Number 2. Old Remington Arms Munitions Factory, Bridgeport. Tucked away in Bridgeport's industrial sprawl stands a relic of America's turbulent past, a place where echoes of war and whispers of tragedy still linger in the air. The old Remington Arms Munitions Factory, once a powerhouse of production, now lies abandoned, its shattered windows and rusting towers looming like sentinels over empty streets. But it's not just the decay of brick and steel that gives this place its reputation. It's what remains unseen and what refuses to leave. The Remington Arms Complex dates back to the early 1900s, when it was the beating heart of Connecticut's arms industry. During 2 world wars, thousands of workers, men and women, poured through its gates, forging bullets and artillery shells around the clock. The factory's relentless pace was matched only by its dangers. Accidents were common. Explosions ripped through the halls. Fires claimed lives in the blink of an eye. Some say the walls themselves absorbed the fear and pain, holding onto it long after the last shift ended. Today, the factory is a labyrinth of collapsed roofs, graffiti-tagged walls, and silent machinery. But for those who dare to step inside, the silence is never complete. Visitors report the unmistakable clang of metal echoing through empty corridors, the distant hum of machinery that hasn't run in decades. Shadows flit across broken windows, and voices rise in the darkness, sometimes urgent, sometimes mournful, always just out of reach. There's a heaviness here, a sense of unfinished business. Paranormal investigators and urban explorers alike have spoken of sudden icy drafts, cold spots that appear without warning, even in the heat of summer. Some have seen figures darting between the rusted machines. A man in oil-stained overalls, a woman in a factory apron, their faces blurred, their eyes fixed on work that will never be finished. Others have described hearing the faint, rhythmic thud of boots on concrete, as if spectral workers are still marching to the relentless beat of the assembly line. The most chilling stories come from those who've lingered after dark. They tell of disembodied screams, echoing up from the lower levels where, decades ago, an explosion killed several workers. There's talk of a foreman's ghost, stern, watchful, and unwilling to let trespassers go unpunished. Some claim to have seen him standing atop the catwalks, glaring down with eyes that burn in the gloom, only to vanish when approached. Even the air seems charged with memory. The scent of gunpowder and machine oil lingers, impossible to explain. Flashlights flicker and die, cameras malfunction, and footsteps echo in places where no one stands. It's as if the factory itself is alive, unwilling to surrender its secrets to time or trespassers. Standing amid the ruins, you can almost hear the cacophony of the past, the roar of machines, the barked orders, the sudden terrible silence after disaster struck. The Remington Arms Factory is more than a monument to industry. It's a mausoleum of ambition, tragedy, and unresolved stories. Are the spirits here trapped by the violence of their final moments? Or are they simply unwilling to abandon the place that defined their lives? Would you walk these darkened halls alone, knowing what countless others have seen and heard? Or would you let the old Remington Arms rest? Number 1. Norwich State Hospital, Preston and Norwich. On the banks of the Thames River, shrouded by tangled woods and the slow creep of decay, stands a place where Connecticut's darkest memories are sealed behind crumbling brick and shattered glass. This is Norwich State Hospital, a sprawling complex where the echoes of pain, hope, and despair refuse to fade with time. Opened in 1904, Norwich State Hospital was once a beacon of progress, built to treat society's most vulnerable, the mentally ill, the criminally insane, and those cast aside by the world outside. Over the decades, its campus grew into a self-contained city, dozens of buildings connected by underground tunnels, all humming with the routines of doctors, nurses, and the thousands who called these wards home. But for many, the promise of healing gave way to something much darker. Stories of overcrowding, neglect, and experimental treatments became part of the hospital's legacy. The walls that were meant to shelter instead bore silent witness to suffering, treatments like electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and isolation that left scars deeper than any diagnosis. Now, decades after its closure, Norwich State Hospital is a labyrinth of ruin. Windows gape like open wounds. Paint peels from the walls in long, curling strips, and the silence is broken only by the wind rattling through empty corridors. But those who venture close know the silence is deceiving. Visitors and urban explorers speak of a heavy, oppressive atmosphere, a feeling that something unseen is always watching. Footsteps echo where no living soul walks. Doors slam shut in abandoned wards, and shadows move just out of sight. Some have heard the faint sound of weeping, or the desperate cries of patients echoing through the night, as if the past is replaying itself in endless loops. The hospital's underground tunnels are especially notorious. Here, the air grows colder, the darkness thicker. Flashlights flicker and batteries drain without warning. Some explorers have reported being touched by unseen hands, or feeling a sudden, paralyzing fear that drives them back to the surface. Others have seen apparitions, nurses in outdated uniforms, patients shuffling down long-forgotten halls, their faces blurred and mournful. One legend tells of a doctor who still patrols the wards, his footsteps echoing in the dead of night, searching for patients he can never save. Others speak of a little boy, forever lost, whose laughter sometimes drifts through the children's ward, a chilling reminder of innocence lost to time. Norwich State Hospital is more than just a ruin. It's a mausoleum of memories, a place where the living and the dead coexist in uneasy silence. Are the spirits here trapped by the trauma of their final days? Or are they drawn back by the hope that someone, someday, will remember their names? Would you walk these halls after dark, knowing the weight of sorrow and mystery that lingers in every shadow? Or would you leave Norwich's secrets undisturbed, letting the past rest beneath layers of dust and regret? As we leave the winding back roads and abandoned corridors of Connecticut behind, we're left with more questions than answers. This small state, rich with colonial history and industrial ambition, is stitched together by stories that refuse to stay buried. From the misty hills to the forgotten factories, Connecticut's haunted reputation isn't just built on ghost stories. It's built on the echoes of real lives, real tragedies, and the mysteries that time can't erase. Maybe it's the long winters, the ancient forests, or the way the past lingers in every small town and shadowed corner. Whatever the reason, Connecticut has earned its place as one of America's most quietly unsettling landscapes. Here, the supernatural feels less like a spectacle and more like a whisper, an invitation to look closer, to question what we think we know, and to wonder what's waiting just out of sight. If you enjoyed this exploration of Connecticut's most chilling legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another journey into the unknown. Share your own haunted experiences or local legends in the comments below. I'd love to hear what stories keep you up at night. Until next time, stay curious and stay creepy. Bye for now.